For this cowl, I'm going to use size 10.5 or 6.5 millimeter knitting needles, and I'm going to use 2 hanks of Be So Brave, which is a worsted weight 100% US made American merino wool. We're going to start with a knit cast on, and we're going to do 88 stitches. And so first let me show you how we start a knit cast on. You want to start with a slip knot and slide it onto one of your needles. That slip knot counts as the first stitch, and then we're going to knit into that stitch. But instead of dropping that left hand needle stitch off the needle when we knit the next one, we're going to add that new stitch to the left needle. So now we've cast on a second stitch. That's a knit cast on. So now we'll knit that new stitch, but not drop it off the left hand needle, and rather just add the new stitch to the left needle. So now we have 3 stitches. You want to continue to knit cast on until you have 88 stitches on your needles. Okay, we've got our 88 stitches on our needles now, and so now we want to start the first round, and we're going to do 4 rounds in garter stitch. But because we're doing rounds, not rows, we have to do things a little bit differently. So like if you were doing rows in garter stitch, you would knit one row and then knit the next row. In rounds, you have to do the opposite. You have to knit one round and then purl one round. So you're doing the opposite. You're doing in rounds what you would do in rows for stockinette and vice versa. So because we did the knit cast on, we're going to actually purl the first round to achieve garter stitch. So we're going to purl each of our 88 stitches all the way around, and then we'll knit the next round. Okay, we purled all the way around, and now we're ready to start our next knit round. So now we're going to knit in each of our stitches all the way around. We did our knit cast on for the first round, then we did a purl round, and now we're going to do a knit round, and then we'll do one more purl round, and our edging in garter stitch in the round will be complete, and we can start our cable pattern. I picked this colorway specifically for this stitch pattern because well, the yarn color is called Shining Sea, and it's such a beautiful oceany color, and this particular textured cable pattern really looks like waves. I think you're going to love it. Honestly, you could continue on just in garter stitch in the round. As soft as this yarn is and as squishy as it is, this would be absolutely a gorgeous texture all on its own. But because we're going to do this textured cable wavy pattern, we're going to get started on the pattern. So we have our 4 rounds in garter stitch, and the first round of the repeat is to just knit around. So we've already done this, so just round 1 of the actual pattern now is to knit around. And go ahead and get your cable needle or an extra double pointed needle, or even a pencil for that matter. We're going to need some sort of stick for using as a cable needle in a couple of rounds from now. So you want to have that ready before we get to round, let's see, I think it's round 10. Yeah, round 10. So round 1 is to knit all the way around all your stitches. Okay, round 2, we are going to purl 4 and knit 4. Purl, 2, 3, and 4, and then knit 4. Knit, knit 2, knit 3, knit 4. And you want to repeat those 8 stitches all the way around. Purl 4, knit 4, and repeat that all the way around. Okay, round 1 was to knit a round. Round 2 was to purl 4, knit 4, and repeat those 8 stitches around. Now rows 3, 4, 5, and 6 are to repeat rounds 1 and 2 more times. So we're going to do a round of knit all the way around, and then a round of purl 4, knit 4 all the way around, and repeat those 2 rounds 2 more times. Okay, for round 7, we're going to knit all the way around one more time. So you want to knit all 88 stitches for round 7. Okay, for round 8, we're going to do our knit 4, purl 4 pattern, but in the opposite order that we did it for the first 3 repeats of it. So this time we're going to knit the first 4 stitches, and then purl the next 4 stitches. So our repeat over 8 stitches for this round is to knit 4 and then purl 4. And you want to repeat knit 4, purl 4 over 8 stitches all the way around. Working a cable pattern in the round is a little bit tricky sometimes, especially when the stitch patterns are going to be written for rows. And because we don't have stitches at the beginning and end of the round like we do with the rows, we're having to sometimes do a cable with some stitches from the beginning and some stitches from the end of the round. So instead of putting a stitch marker on our needles, what I like to do is use a split ring stitch marker and just mark where the beginning and end of the round is, because for our first cable we're going to borrow stitches from the end of the last round and slip them onto our cable needle. So the first cable of round 10 is going to be cable 4 back, and we're going to slip the first 2 stitches which we're borrowing from the end of the round, of the last round, and we're going to move them to the back of the work, knit the next 2 stitches from our left hand needle, and then knit the 2 stitches off of our cable needle. You can use a regular cable needle, you can use a double point needle like I'm using, you can even use a pencil if you can't find any other tools. Okay, the next cable is going to be cable 4 front. So you're going to slide the first 2 stitches to your cable needle and move them to the front of the work. Knit the next 2 stitches off the back needle. I'm sorry, off of the left hand needle, and then knit the 2 stitches off of your cable needle. Okay, and that's what we're going to do all the way around. So we're going to repeat that again. We're going to do cable 4 back, so slip 2 stitches to the cable needle and move it to the back of the work, knit 2, and then knit the 2 stitches off the cable needle. Okay, and then we will do cable 4 front, slip 2 stitches from the left hand needle to the cable needle, move it to the front of the work, knit 2 from your left hand needle, and knit 2 from the cable needle. Okay, so just you want to repeat that all the way around. If for some reason you get stuck and you're not sure whether to do the cable 4 to the front, cable 4 to the back, what I want you to remember is we always want the 4 stitches that look like stockinette right here. You want those to always be on the top when you're cabling over. See how I've got the stockinette stitches are always to the front and the purl stitches or the garter stitch looking ones are to the back? As long as you remember that, you should always get them in the right order. Okay, so we finished round 10, our cable round, and remember how we placed that stitch marker at the beginning and to mark the beginning and end of the round. And the reason we did it was to remember that we borrowed the 2 last stitches of the round to start the first cable. So knit those last 2 stitches, and now that will put us back in the position to have the beginning and end of the round to start repeating rounds 1 through 10. So we'll just slide that stitch marker up now. In fact, we can put it on our needles. It's fine to use as a regular stitch marker now. It will only be when we have to repeat round 10 again that we'll move it down and use the split ring portion of it to just mark the beginning and end. So now you have all of the tools you need to make this cowl except for the bind off. So now you just want to repeat rounds 1 through 10, and then when it reaches the desired length, we will do an edging and a bind off. Okay, we did our 4 round garter stitch edging. We did our 10 round repeat of the cable once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. Then we repeated rounds 1 through 4 one more time, and then we did our 4 round garter edging one more time to repeat what we did at the beginning down there. So now all that's left to do is to bind off. And because we did a really loose cast on down here, I'm thinking this is going to be the bottom or neck edge, like down by your collarbone, and then this will be the top edge, so we don't need this one as stretchy. So we're just going to do a very traditional bind off, and that is to knit 2 stitches and then pass the first stitch up and over the second stitch and off the needle completely. 1 stitch is bound off. So we'll knit another stitch and then grab the stitch before it up and over and off. Knit the next stitch, pass the one before it up and over and off, and you just want to repeat that all the way around.